Welcome back. About 2:17 here on the East Coast. Still with us, Maggie Haberman, David Rode, Stuart Stevens, and Chris O'Leary. So the president was very busy over the weekend on Truth Social, posting lots of AI-generated images, I believe over 40 in a few hours' time. You're seeing some of the greatest hits there. It's our oil tanker now, no more engines. Sadly, we don't have the one of him saving George Washington from falling off a cliff. It appears to be Mount Rushmore, though oddly, Abraham Lincoln missing. You're just going to have to go on Truth Social yourself to check that one out, Stuart Stevens. As you look at this, it raises all sorts of questions. I mean, on one hand, it's like, man, this is everyone's uncle, like falling for AI slop on social media. Except this case, it's the commander in chief who has the ability with a single order, to re-engage a war or more. What does this tell you when you see something like this?
Well, look, this is not a well man. There's some need that we have as a society to pretend otherwise. Donald Trump was never prepared to be president. He's been president. He's still not prepared. And now he's in a decline. And today's the best day of the Trump presidency. Tomorrow will be worse. And there's this strange need that we have to ignore this, because I think to admit it, the consequences are so devastatingly disturbing. But it's what's dangerous is not that this guy hanging around the house doing this wacky stuff. It's that he's gone to war with the Persian Empire. And we seem to be losing a war every 60 days. And this is something that it will take a very long time for the United States to regain, if we can, our credibility in the world. So it's just another example of how irresponsible and unpatriotic Republicans were to go along with Donald Trump. And every member in the Senate knows it. Every Republican does, and they still do it. And it's one of the darker chapters in American history.
Well, we can safely predict what the response from Republicans on Capitol Hill will be when asked about these social media posts. They'll say they hadn't seen them. So, Chris O'Leary, but we know this is, it's the way we live now, 2026 moment, I suppose, where the Iran-U.S. conflict has also at times devolved into a meme war. They seem to like Legos. The President Trump likes AI slop. But what sort of message does this send to them, to Tehran, when you see the president spend hours at a time on a spree like this?
I think they will not take him seriously, and they see him as desperate. He thinks this is an effective way of communicating and negotiating, and it's simply not. It's disgraceful. It's unpresidential, and it doesn't give him any additional leverage. And what he should be doing is reading history, at nights before he falls asleep, and understanding that the Iran-Iraq war lasted 8 years, and it was barbaric. The Iranians are in this for the long haul. And they are not going to just cave because he's putting out these offensive memes. Listen, as a combat veteran myself, the father of a combat veteran, the brother of a combat veteran, and with nieces and nephews serving in the military now, along with many of my friends, it dishonors them. And it's unworthy of the presidential office, and certainly for somebody who evaded service himself. It really diminishes people who are committed to, honor and service and upholding the Constitution. And this is turning it into a video game.
Maggie, I won't ask you your thoughts if you think the president will take Chris up on his recommendation of reading history before bed every night. But I will ask you about tomorrow. Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel visits Washington. I believe it's his 8th White House meeting in the second term, by far the most of any other leader. Your book, of course, details in extraordinary fashion some of the meetings with Netanyahu and the president's team, as he makes the case for war. We're a long way from that now. The president's relationship with the prime minister has certainly been tense at times. What do you expect will come from tomorrow?
I think that we know where Netanyahu is likely to end up, and it is not going to be that the U.S. should simply walk away from this conflict. But I don't know that Netanyahu is going to be prepared to make the same kind of case for full-scale engagement continuing, especially because the president has already given Netanyahu an out on not rejoining. Netanyahu is facing his own political problems. in Israel, as we know. President Trump, who actually was extremely popular in Israel as of last year, his popularity has gone down in Israel. It's still much higher than it is in the U.S., certainly, but it's gone down, polls show, since this war started and has continued. The bigger question to me, John, is what the president is going to say to Netanyahu. This was not a meeting that President Trump sought, as far as we know. He had actually been trying to avoid it. And as you said, his relationship with Netanyahu has gone up, has gone down. We describe in the book that he used to refer to Netanyahu as a con man. He was obviously furious with him for many, many years after he left office for the sin of congratulating Joe Biden on winning the presidency. Netanyahu worked very hard to try to get that relationship better. But as you were asking that question, I kept thinking about something that he said, Trump, to Jonathan Swan and me when we were in the Oval Office for a fact-checking interview for our book. We asked him about Netanyahu as a wartime partner. That was 17 days into the war, and he was ebullient about him, very effusive. He's not afraid of war. Well, they are both now in a war, and we'll see where this goes.
In a war, David Rohde, that's very unpopular per public polling. But this will be an interesting marker in this moment tomorrow because Netanyahu, Israel's playing a different role in the conflict now than, of course, they were earlier. But they've made very clear they still view Iran as a deadly threat. And yet President Trump has come up to the line, more times than I can keep track of right now in terms of resuming hostilities. But each time he blinks, Iran calls his bluff.
This meeting is more important for Bibi Netanyahu than it is for Donald Trump. And I think Trump is sort of an albatross. He went forward with this Saudi nuclear deal, which I think surprised many Israelis. And Israelis, for understandable reasons, don't want Saudi Arabia to have the ability to enrich uranium, which they could possibly, with no inspections, use to create a nuclear weapon. So I just think that Netanyahu, from an Israeli political perspective, was like, I brought Trump along, we're going to take care of Iran. And all this is unraveling. And Trump looks unsteady as an ally towards Israelis. And I would just agree with Chris. Trump looks weak in the region. He looks erratic. The memes look desperate. And all this is, again, I think, going to encourage Iran to just wait him out and pressure him as the midterms approach. And
Maggie, last one to you in terms of David's thought there about the desperation there and the evident frustration from President Trump. What's the conversations like right now from other Republicans who, of course, so many of them facing really tough reelection fights this November? What are those talks like from one end of Pennsylvania to the other in terms of suggesting to the president, maybe it's time to wrap this up?
Look, it's immense concern. And this is where, John, and I know you know this because we've discussed this before, but this is actually where the absence of Lindsey Graham as something of an interlocutor really is hurting. Trump hates the Senate, Republicans. He hates the leadership. His relationship really is with the House GOP. And they are pretty pliant, but their members who are in marginal districts are very concerned about where this is going. Frankly, I don't know, John, how useful a lot of conventional wisdom is this cycle for a number of reasons. This is an odd, lamed up term. It is not a consecutive 2 terms. There are all kinds of factors why both parties are struggling, but no Republican lawmaker in my reporting is excited about this unless they are in a deep red district. And even there, it's still really hard to justify because the president is just so not focused on the economy. And I was glad, actually, that that David mentioned the Saudi deal, everything that is happening right now, that plus the tariffs that are going back into a new regime to try to make up for the ones that were zeroed out. There's all kinds of economic headwinds, and none of this is making Republicans' jobs easier in terms of their own reelection fights.